All right, then. So we still want to talk about Mason Rudolph or not talk about Mason Rudolph, as some people were suggesting, because this or that or whatever. Hey, that's done. He's coming. He's going to be back. The question is whether or not he's going to be the starter, whether or not he's going to be the man. And that's going to take some time, I think, to determine that. He has agreed, I should say, to a 2-year, $8 million term. $4.5 million of that is guaranteed in the first year. So from a contract standpoint, there's really not that much to discuss. I mean, it's virtually a doubling of what he made last season in Nashville with the Titans. It was never, as I told you, it was never going to be some sort of bank breaker, because he's never been very highly paid, because in his first incarnation with the Steelers, he was obviously Ben Roethlisberger's backup for most of that time, and then was put into positions where he had to battle with other people. And even when he would beat them out, he still wouldn't get the job. And yes, he came back anyway. Okay. And as I told you guys earlier in the week, he wanted to come back. This was a situation in which he had choices. He had other teams who had either spoken to him or outright made offers. One of them, incidentally, was the Titans, to stay there in a situation that he already knew for a year. And even though the Titans had their own uncertainty and have their own uncertainty at starting quarterback, with not knowing what the heck they're going to do with Will Levis. We're going to see if they end up drafting a quarterback, since they're picking where they are in that class. He still came here. Why is that exactly? Well, we can talk about some of that today. We can talk about where Aaron Rodgers might be roaming on a beach somewhere looking forlorn. We might talk about why the Steelers are even putting their fate in his goofy hands. We can get into some of that as well. When we come back, I'm going to be joined by Chris Halleck, who's still on the South Side, where I just came back from, over there where the Steelers have all kinds of stuff going on. So stay with us there.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app.
Are we back? Are you on, Chris? Oh, I can't
Yeah.
hear him. Okay, back. He's muted there. All right, now can you hear me?
I think our ad went away.
Yeah, you just overtook the ad there. You're so all powerful.
I'm all powerful. Yes.
For anybody who doesn't know why Chris would be on the South Side and why I was over there just a little bit ago, is the Steelers are bringing these free agents into the fold. Literally, they're bringing them to the South Side, and then after they get their little intros and do their other stuff, and in some cases physically sign their contracts. That's why you see terms like they agreed to a contract, as opposed to they signed a contract. Whenever we're reporting, that's why they haven't physically done it yet, and they're also doing physicals and other stuff like that. So we've heard today already from, let's go over the list here, Chris. It was Malik Harrison,
Brandon Eccles, and
Brandon was first.
And then, I'm blanking on the third one. I just wrote about all three of them.
Kenny G.
Yeah, Kenny G.
The way he sold himself to us. G. Yes, you can call me Kenny G if you want to. The new running back in town. And the main attractions are still to come. Obviously, you're talking about Darius Slay, and then of course DK Metcalf. I don't know where this stuff comes from. Is Metcalf really coming? Is he going to show up? Is he?
I don't understand that either.
Where is that? I mean, there was a trade. This wasn't a free agent signing. This wasn't something that you go back on. He's with the Steelers. He's okay with it. That somehow just got totally manufactured somewhere. He's going to be there actually any minute now, right, Chris?
Yeah. So the Steelers just made the Darius Slay signing official.
That means he's next.
That means he's next. And so I'm literally standing in the parking lot waiting to see him walk across, and that's when I'm gonna take off and run. But no, that's what's happening. And I mean, even Steelers PR has said we got 2 guys left, and so we know Darius Slay is one of them. And I can almost guarantee Mason Rudolph didn't get here that fast. And Aaron Rodgers, I think, is still somewhere on a beach in Malibu. So it's going to be DK Metcalf that we speak with. That's the other guy. So
yeah. So Carol says I always want to talk about Mason Rudolph, and we're going to do that, Carol, as well. Let's get into the quarterbacks first, Chris. Everything that what's going on here. Obviously, Mason is now a done deal. What are they doing with Rodgers? What are they doing?
It's got to be a swing for the fences on 2025, which the more and more I think about it. Exactly. The more and more I think about it, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Listen, this is all setting up for 2026 to be the year that you try to get your quarterback of the future. Getting Mason Rudolph to a 2-year contract gives you some stability, a high floor quarterback 2 at the bare minimum, a guy who can start games, who has started meaningful games and started a playoff game for you in recent years. And so, you know what you're getting with Mason. You know that if he has enough weapons around him that he can distribute the ball. I don't know how high the ceiling is with him, but again, that's why you're not signing him to be that's why he signed a 2-year, $8 million deal. That's why he didn't get, the type of contract that Justin Fields got from the Jets or anybody else. And so this is all setting up, especially knowing the number of comp picks that they're going to get in next year's draft. They're loading up so that they can possibly get in firing range of getting one of those top quarterbacks next year, which it's not like it'd be a 2004-esque type class, but it's going to be a much better one than we're seeing this year.
On the video version of this, if you're seeing Chris and me switch boxes constantly, it's because there's some defect with this software that
I was wondering.
it's not when I'm trying to put people's comments up.
Yeah,
it's switching the box because this is not exactly a ringing endorsement for the StreamYard software. Let's put it that way here. One way or another, if you can deal with us kind of spinning back and forth or us not putting up as many comments, that's the way it's going to go today. Sorry. Not everything was going to go perfectly today. I will take it as a start, though. I've been saying for a while now that you want to bring Mason Rudolph back. What I didn't understand, and this was part of what I'd initially heard Monday with the reporting that I'd done, was that this sounded as if it were conditional, meaning like, well, as soon as they get Aaron Rodgers squared away, they can go ahead and take care of Rudolph. And I'm thinking, why? You're going to just do this with one 41-year-old quarterback? Like that made no sense to me. So today to see that at least that got done, one way or another, Rudolph's going to be of use to the Steelers, okay? Possibly of significant use. My approach to this, and I have made no secret of this, is that I would take this money that you're going to light on fire. I really believe that with Rodgers. You're just going to, okay? And keep building your football team. Chris, if you're right that 2026 is, for whatever reason, the big thing, the big target for them, then go ahead and keep adding young quarterbacks. Go ahead and draft one this year. Go and get another young guy from New England or wherever. Then go into the 2026 draft, which will be right across that river over there, and get yourself your impact quarterback. But do it this year with a responsible adult professional who knows your players, who knows your coach, who knows what there is to know about the Steelers and Pittsburgh and everything. He'll be one of the most tenured guys on the team. The moment the ink is dry, well, not tenured because you lose a year.
Right.
Yeah. But he'll be able to do that, and you can go ahead and have a nice functional season in the interim, right?
Yeah, you can for sure. And listen, I we talked about it, that with Mason, we don't know how high the ceiling is, but we know that it's at least a high floor. We know that it probably won't be some catastrophic season. I mean, the 1 year in which they really had to lean on Mason Rudolph and obviously Duck Hodges as well. I mean, that was when Mason was really raw, really young, not developed at the NFL level. And they also, by the way, had Duck Hodges at quarterback, who is probably now by this point known more for who he's engaged to rather than his NFL career. They went 8-8 that year, or they were 500. They were playing, for a possible playoff spot late in the season. And I can't imagine like this year being when they have better weapons, when they probably have a better defense, or at least, a comparable defense in which they can't be, a 9-8 or 10-7 football team. Now, granted, people are tired of hearing 9-8 or 10-7. I get that. But also you're not going to compete unless you have a quarterback, and most likely Mason's, he could be that guy. I'm not going to put a ceiling on a guy, but the plan here is going to be finding your franchise quarterback in next year's draft. That should be, and yes, you should absolutely take a quarterback this year too. I don't know if you should be taking one in the first round. I think there are other things you should probably address. One, we talk about not having a plan for post Ben. They need to have a plan for post Cam, because if they don't, that defensive line is going to get bad really quick.
Now, Jay Mood says Mason Rudolph, aka Ryan Tannehill 2.0. I think that's actually probably a fair, full discussion point at some stage of this discussion, maybe next week or whatever, depending on how all this shakes out. But the Steelers themselves have talked about this. The Steelers themselves have brought up that comparison, not in terms of achievements or anything. We're talking about style here. We're talking about the fit within a system. There's a lot about Rudolph that fits the Arthur Smith mold of a quarterback. He wants you to be able to drop back, find your targets. He really wants you to hold your pocket. He really doesn't like when you bail on the pocket, which a certain somebody was doing an awful lot down the second half of this past season here. Can something happen here, Chris? I mean, this is, it's funny. Everybody thinks they know Rudolph. They think they know his history. Well, given I saw somebody in here, given his history is up and down. He had up and down. He had a big down at the very beginning when he took Ben's place out of nowhere. He was young. He got clubbed over the head, by Myles Garrett. Had significant concussion issues, that season, and then didn't play for years. And all he did was behind the scenes, he got better. And he comes back and he looks like a totally different guy. But nobody seems comfortable just judging him based on either those 5 games or, for that matter, the 5 that he started this past season for the Titans. Yeah,
I think the main reason for trepidation when it comes to Mason Rudolph is that the stretch in which he looked best, and there's no denying that during that span near the end of to close out the 2023 season, that he looked like a really good quarterback, is that it's such a small sample size. And I think that's one of the reasons why he didn't get a contract from the Steelers, that offseason, obviously. Now, that doesn't mean he can't be that guy. Because if he is that guy, you've got your quarterback, because playing at that level for an entire season, he had a 120 passer rating. Like, you would absolutely take that all the time. But the question is like, how sustainable is that? How sustainable is that 3-game, the regular season, and then plus the playoff game? How sustainable is that performance?
Does it have to be though, Chris? Do you need a 120 guy?
No.
I mean, do you see what I'm saying?
You could use one, yeah.
Oh, yeah. You'll take a 120 guy every game. But he's also never operated with weapons like this. Mm-hmm. Okay. He's never, you're talking about an offense that's going to have DK Metcalf and, and George Pickens and Calvin Austin and maybe Cooper Kupp, meaning if you don't go and blow all your money on the Aaron Rodgers that you wish you had from 10 years ago. Just keep building up the football team, build up the offensive line, put the money in. Chris, what were we talking about today in the Steelers cafeteria? Swing tackle.
Yeah.
This isn't something that's going to get the casual fan excited, but you'd better believe it'll get the diehards into it. I want a swing tackle. And you know what else I want out of that swing tackle? I want him to be not only able, but eager to take Broderick Jones's job. Push him like that. I don't want I'm not knocking on Spencer Anderson here, okay? But I'm talking about bringing in somebody from the outside who's capable of both tackle positions, but who wants to knock 77 off the field.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to continue to survey the free agent market. I just don't know if that guy is out there right now. You might have to go in the draft. Unfortunately, this is not a great tackle draft. It's the way that whenever I've talked with a lot of with certain people about the draft, a lot of short arm tackles, and short arm tackles don't typically have a great, unless you are a freak athlete, it usually doesn't work out. You usually got to kick inside the guard. So it's just not a great tackle draft. And so, we'll see what plays out. But to your point, though, I think you can build a little bit more of what Arthur Smith wants to do if you do have Mason Rudolph, for example, as your quarterback, because you can have more options for what the quarterback can do. You can build up the running game. I think Kenneth Gainwell will be especially if he ends up being RB3, like if they draft a running back and, if it's, Murray and Hampton in the first round, or if it's Caleb, if they get back in the second round and they take Caleb Johnson or somebody like that in the second round, you have an RB2 from the draft and then Kenneth Gainwell as your third. Like, that's a pretty good running back class, or a running back room that can also all run in Arthur Smith's system, what he wants to do. You can actually play more to his system and play to his strengths. And I think any offensive coordinator, no matter what they want to do, whether you like it or not, that they are at their absolute best whenever they can play the way they want to play.
Sean Evans brings up an equally good point. We've had some good questions here. And again, I'm going to apologize for the weird video stuff that's going on today. Yeah. But Sean says, if we assume that Mason is QB1, which I would love, he says, who do we bring in for QB2, or do you draft QB3? This is where the discussion starts to get really fun. Okay. Again, presuming you knock off this Rodgers crap. Okay. Because if you go and you get yourself, because I know for some people it's going to be tougher to, what are you talking about? Mason Rudolph. Okay. What's the old dude's name?
Tyler Shock.
Tyler Shock, old dude in the draft. He's 25.
25.
Or so. Yeah, okay. But for draft, that's old.
Yeah.
Tyler Shock is there. Now, do you want to spend a first-round pick on Tyler Shock?
No.
Yeah. No, says Chris, after being in Mobile, Alabama and Indianapolis.
I like him a lot, but not a first-round pick. Sorry.
Okay, but he's 25. He's got arm talent. He can throw these goofy sidearm Mahomes-type passes. He can deliver the football in a lot of different ways. All right? Mm-hmm. So there's he's not played in the NFL, so there's some upside, okay? So if you get someone like that, you're the Steelers. You don't do it in the first round. You can't do it in the second round because you just gave that up for DK Metcalf. Mm-hmm. You do it in the third. I don't know. But maybe you move up or down or whatever in the class, you know what I mean, through trading the picks to go where you need to go. Get whoever else it is that you want in the draft. Get another, if it's not Shock, then go talk to New England. Go talk to teams that have young guys that might get trapped in certain situations. Okay? And build your 2 and 3 that way.
I think this is a draft in which you can do what they did with Mason Rudolph in 2018 when they drafted him in the third round. This can be one of those years in which you take a guy in the third or the fourth round. And I mean, it could be any of these guys. If Jackson Dart, I don't think he's still going to be there, but if Jackson Dart's there in the third round, I'm interested. If Will Howard is there in the fourth round out of Ohio State, I'm interested. If Quinn Ewers is there in the fourth or the fifth round, I'm interested. You got a number of different guys who I'm fine taking the swing, with the right draft pick. Reaching for Shadur Sanders in the first round, to me, is a bad idea. This is not the draft to be. I don't want them taking a quarterback in the first round. Even if they were to trade back in the first round, let's say they trade back to 28 or something like that so they can get back into the second round. That's still too high for any of these quarterbacks to me, because it's not the draft to do it. When you look at next year's draft and who could all be there, we're talking Manning, we're talking Aller, we're talking, the names are escaping me, but the kid from LSU and then from Tennessee, there's a number of guys in next year's draft that are all going to be within firing range if the Steelers are picking in the same spot that they're probably going to be. So I'm fine taking a flyer on one of those guys to possibly even be your QB2, because like Will Howard, even out of Ohio State, the dude just won a national championship.
Yeah, that's minor league football. Brian Junker says, you know how I feel about that. You got to do it at this level. You got to. We can evaluate college guys until we're purple in the face, and I know you love it. I just want to see them in Latrobe, and I'll start making. You know what I'm saying? Brian Jonker says, he says, I don't know what the heck happened in Nashville, but Mason's got to stop throwing so many interceptions. Brian, the first part of your comment was dead on. You don't know what the heck happened in Nashville, and you did not watch the Ramon Foster show here on our channel yesterday, because Ramon is in Nashville. Ramon covers the Titans in his day job. Ramon said that of the 9 interceptions that Mason threw, 4 of them were on balls that just bounced off his own guy's hands. Okay, just those kinds of interceptions, which are almost, not entirely, but almost never the quarterback's fault. Brian, you also will remember that when Mason was starting for the Steelers, and the only chance that he ever really had to be the quarterback here in those 5 games, he was really, really careful with the football. There was that one interception in the Buffalo playoff game, which I will still argue forever that Deontay Johnson should have come back to.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to talk about perceptions. We're going to talk about Edward White has been littering this comments field here for about 15 minutes now. This dude been around for years. Trash. Okay. Edward, been around for years means what? Did you watch him in practice? Because that's the only thing he was doing all those years. What you were stuck with was a perception from 2019. You made up your mind, like a lot of people do in a lot of walks of life anymore these days. You made up your mind, and that's it. It can't be changed. Those 5 games for you never happened, meaning the 5 games in 2023. Chris, the greatest thing that you can say to Mason's credit, I think, in his tenure in the Steelers isn't even those 5 games. It's what was done between there. You just don't see that. Mike Tomlin, remember glowing about that.
Yeah, because, to your point and what you've talked about, the NFL does not have a minor league system. And so Mason Rudolph's only chance for development is to do it in practice, is to do it, on his own, is to do it, whenever he gets snaps in the preseason, when he gets snaps in Latrobe. And you can work and you can study and you can talk with other quarterbacks. You can try to learn as much as you can from Ben, even though Ben didn't really help Mason in that regard. But you can try to learn from Mitch Trubisky. You can try to learn from Kenny Pickett. Not that those are glowing players, but there's sometimes the best coaches, the smartest people in the game aren't good players. So you can still learn really good things from players who aren't that great. Just because they at least know the game well, you just can't translate it to their body. What Mason's done, I think it's worth. If he's the starting quarterback this year, I don't think the end of the world is coming. But again, to put it in the same vein, the Steelers were never going to get their future quarterback this offseason. They just never were. If you happen to get one, whether it's Mason Rudolph or whether it's somebody in the draft,
good point.
Then my God, like you lucked out and you got one. Great. But most likely you're not getting one this offseason. So do what you can to compete this year with what you have, and then load up and try to get your quarterback of the future next year in the draft.
John Malesko also points out that comparing Mason's time with the Titans is the same as comparing Fields' time with the Bears. It's about the same situation they were in. John sounds like somebody who watched the Tennessee offense at work. Meaning not just the quarterbacks, meaning not just Levis and not just Rudolph. Again, going back to what Ramon said yesterday, and I got to tell you, off camera, he had much stronger language for this, which was much, much more beautiful. Let's just say that the Titans offense was not good in the esteemed eyes of the Big Ragu. Okay,
I love hearing Ramon talk about stuff, especially when there's not a camera on him.
The Titans offense was 3 letters, one of them starting with A. Okay. And that's where we're going to go with that. So I can promise you that that's one of the reasons, that anybody would want out of there. Okay. Now we're getting some questions about Aaron Rodgers here. Unfortunately, there aren't a whole lot of answers on this front here. Javon comes in with a $4.99 contribution. Thanks to everybody who's leaving contributions, by the way, or buying gift memberships or just buying a membership for yourself, it's dkps.net/join. Javon says, hello, DK. Big fan. I always tune in every day. Welcome home, Mason. I hope he performs well and makes these haters eat their words. So far, we got one hater in our little live chat here, and he's really annoying, and I've kicked him out.
It's no fun. It's no fun to spam a commenting section.
I mean, what are you doing?
I mean, everybody has an opinion, and that's fine. But you don't have to spam it. You don't have to go every third comment and make sure you shove it down everybody's throat.
Yeah, Joanna says Mason fits well with this offense. I'm sure she meant to say he deserves this. I'm not going to, he deserves it, but it's not. I hope that what you mean when you say that is that he has earned it. Okay. Yeah. But by being for 5 years behind the scenes, I shouldn't say 5, we're closer to 4 behind the scenes of just learning, studying, never stopping being better. He was the number 3 quarterback in the 2023 season. Behind who, Chris? Behind
Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky.
Think about that. Okay. That
for
is
2 years,
close,
actually.
Yeah. That is as close as you come to being on the NFL scrap heap. And instead of giving up, he just kept pushing. He kept studying film. He kept working on his feet. Does anybody remember what Mason looked like in 2019 with the happy feet? Do you, Chris? Do you remember the happy feet?
The 2019 season, to me, I try to forget about it as much as I possibly can. It was a rough football season. Now, obviously, for a lot of reasons, but the quarterback play between both Mason and Duck was not great. The fact that that might be Mike Tomlin's best season in terms of coaching. The fact that they even avoided a sub 500 season that year is kind of a miracle.
Well, that was the year they traded for Minka in week 3 and sent the signal that they weren't going to quit and all that other stuff. There was some good stuff that happened there. But, part of that was that Mason Rudolph almost beat the 49ers in his very first game, if you'll recall, in Santa Clara out there. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Chris Parnell says, how much will Rodgers end up getting per year from one of these 3 teams? Would you take him for? No, I don't want him. Chris, how much money is he going to get from somebody? Does he even want to play football?
That's the thing, is that everybody keeps throwing out these guesses, and they're trying to make it sound like it's fact.
Money. Yeah,
but I mean, like Florio put out, 2 years for $90 million. I'm sorry, it's not happening. Even he walked that back. Nobody knows what offer the Steelers have on the table, and nobody knows what Aaron Rodgers is thinking, because first off, Aaron Rodgers really thinks uniquely. Probably more so than anybody else on the planet. But
let's hope so.
Yeah. And so, but nobody knows. Nobody knows what Aaron Rodgers is thinking. Not even Pat McAfee knows what Aaron Rodgers is thinking. So anybody who's saying anything about like Rodgers is leaning toward this way, or Rodgers is going to get this amount per year, nobody knows.
Carol's correcting me here. I keep referring to Mason having played 5 games. It was 4.
3 regular season and 1
3 regular season and 1 playoff. What I keep doing is I keep adding the playoff as if it was 4 before that. Corky's,
well, technically he did get into the Colts game, that terrible Colts game at the very, very end. And so, yes, he technically played in 4 regular season games that year, but he started 3.
The best nickname anybody will bring today is Bob Loblaw. If you're familiar with the original reference on that, it says,
I do.
Yeah, from Arrested Development.
Yeah.
It says Mason Rudolph can work this year, but the offensive line will have to be elite. Rudolph's pocket awareness and mobility is a liability. No, it is not. I sound like I'm his agent or something here, but what we're combating here is incorrect perceptions. He is not perfect. He has shortcomings. He has weaknesses to his game. Okay, but that is not one of them. That is 2019. And for what it's worth, when he got out of the pocket, this applied last year to his time in Nashville too. When he got out of the pocket, he's okay. He's not Justin Fields. He's not going to run for 500 yards, but he can get out of there and he can make something happen when he does.
Yeah, he's definitely, the pocket awareness thing is definitely not a thing anymore. The mobility thing, I kind of understand that, because even the comparisons to Ryan Tannehill, Ryan Tannehill was more mobile than Mason Rudolph is. And so I do think that
Yes.
there are limits on his mobility for sure. I don't think he is the most mobile guy. Can you move the pocket with him out of play action? Sure. Yeah, I think you could do that. Are you going to have him run the read option more than 10 times this season if he starts all 17 games? No, probably not. He is just not that type of a quarterback. So, but the pocket awareness thing to me, I think he kind of proved that. I see Javon saying, why not Tyler Huntley? If I'm not mistaken, Tyler Huntley's under contract with somebody. So I don't think he's an option. So, and don't give me that he was a Pro Bowler. Get that out of here.
No, people, stop with the Tyler Huntley nonsense here.
Oh gosh.
Where does that come from?
This is scraping the bottom of the barrel here. Like this is what not having a quarterback does. For those who did not live through the 80s. Now, granted, I was born in 1987, but I'm well versed in Steelers history when it comes to the 1980s. This is what life was like between Bradshaw and Ben, by the way, of trying to find a quarterback. And just
to an extent, I mean, they had some people in that span who had good runs for stretches. I mean,
O'Donnell and Cordell and
even Mark Malone had. I'm predating you here, but even Mark Malone had a nice little run for a while there. Everybody forgets it. Yeah. Neil O'Donnell, I mean, turned into a pretty nice NFL quarterback. Unfortunately, around here, he's only going to remember for two particular throws in a certain big game against Dallas. Cordell Stewart, if Cordell Stewart was so far ahead of his time that, I mean, it worked against him in every conceivable way. Cordell in a 2025 NFL offense would be a legend.
This is a debate for another time. We don't have to get into this now, but best quarterback outside of Ben or Terry in Steelers history. I think that's a fun discussion.
Ooh. I mean, would it not be Bobby Lane? I mean, you might have to go back before.
No, I would still say Neil O'Donnell. Based off of numbers that I've looked at, I think O'Donnell probably is actually it.
Yeah, the number of people that you would agree with you on that.
I understand that, but when you go back and look at the numbers,
they're just picturing Larry Brown running
that's
down
all they
that
picture.
sideline,
That's all
pal.
they imagine. That's all they imagine is those two perfect passes to Larry Brown.
I'm open, man. Rest of me.
Cord, and the thing is that okay, you want some perspective here. Here's some perspective. Whoever lines up at quarterback, even if it's Mason Rudolph, is going to be better than Kent Graham. So this is still not going to be.
But even Graham had some big games here, and I understand Graham.
44% completion percentage.
he's the second statue over at the stadium is the running joke. You see, again, you'd have to be okay. You never mind. Vast Jazz gets the last word today in terms of questions. He says, just for discussion's sake, Mason and Russell Wilson. Chris, I have reported two things for you. Three things. One, they wanted Justin Fields back. They did. They didn't get him back. Okay. Yep. Two, they don't want anything to do with Russ. They really, really don't, except for one guy. And it sure sounds like the one guy has been shouted down. And the third thing was that the Mason stuff. So if take all of it in one lump sum if you can, because that's the way this is playing out. And no, Russ is not coming back.
I don't know how you possibly go back to Russell Wilson after all of this and say, you know what, we changed our mind. Exactly.
You don't. If people have heard the stuff that you and I have heard, okay, you know that it's not happening. Yeah. Okay, it's not happening. Russ is not coming back. Let it go. Let him go be the Browns quarterback duo. Okay,
can you imagine
him and Kenny? And if you want to throw Deshaun in there just to make a point, you can do that as well.
Yeah, I just don't know how you possibly go back to Russ after everything that's happened. The fact that he's obviously not been their plan B, but not even their plan C at this point. Now, I don't know. I don't know how you do that. And so, I will be something has to change drastically. And I'm talking about a complete 180 if Russ has any chance of coming back, because right now there's no chance.
Chris is getting back into the media room now, where the Steelers are going to be bringing Darius Slay in, and soon after that, DK Metcalf. Stop with the Metcalf conspiracies. It's really strange. That's why you come to this show, because we're not guessing at this stuff. When we come back, we're going to take care of a fair amount of business. All right. So, guys, we're trying to build up to 3,000 members on this program, and we have made quite some progress in that regard. I'm not sophisticated enough mathematically, nor am I sharp enough caffeine-wise yet to know the difference between the 745 memberships that we had.
57.
The boss says 457 to the 1,088 we're now blessed to have. Thank you so much as we work our way toward the goal of 3,000 before the Steelers get to business this year. 1,088 memberships is really, really nice. 457 of those in a couple of weeks is really, really, really nice. So a few thank yous here to pass along. Matt Mathis for coming in and gifting 5 of those. Javon Bethea came in with a couple of contributions here. Our friend in Australia comes in and wishes Mason Rudolph to run like Rudy for QB1. Nobody calls him that, by the way. Stella Fierce comes in with 10 gifts. She's good for that. Barbara comes in with 5. Barbara, through another alias of some random basement podcast, comes in with 5.
Matt is him too.
Who else?
The one you just
he's also Matt Mathis?
Yeah.
I did not know this, but here
his picture.
he has so many accounts. The barber does. You have no idea, guys. Carl came in as a new member. Welcome, Carl. You've been here for a while. I had no idea you were sitting over at Ramon's uncle table in that time. Steeler Lee comes in with a contribution and says, really hope that Nico from Tennessee is available next year. But we'll see about that. We'll deal with next year. And I think I've gone through all of these now. Yeah, I have. So what I want to say here to you guys is that the support is appreciated, but I'll tell you what else is appreciated. It's the trust. One of the things that people get wrong about the reporting business, and people who don't understand what it is that we do, as journalists, is I'll say something like, Omar Khan has reached out to Mason Rudolph. That was the exclusive report on Monday. And then a couple days later, Mason signs. And everyone says, oh, look, DK, you had that right. No. What I had right was the original report. The report said that Omar had reached out to Mason. It didn't say that Mason was going to sign. But what happens is the report gets people excited and they say, oh, yes, Mason's going to be here. Mason's going to be here. And then this happens and everyone says, the original report was right. No, the original report was right anyway. I've had some people get really mad in the past week, especially about Justin Fields, because I was saying that they really wanted to keep him. Then what happens? The Steelers blow it. Somebody else swoops in, offers a lot more money. Fields takes it, and he goes, oh, DK, you were wrong. Own up to it. You were wrong. No, because what was reported was that the Steelers wanted him. They obviously didn't want him enough. So just a little background here that I feel comfortable sharing today more than I would on another type of day, because I'm getting all kinds of, yeah, way to go with the Mason stuff, whatever. The report was right on Monday. So all that happened today was another event. They took it further. They got it done. As far as Rodgers and Rudolph and everything else is concerned here, listen, just hope that you can feel however it is that you want. I hope it doesn't happen. I'd like to see the Steelers start getting really serious about that quarterback room for the long term, and I don't think you can do that with Rodgers hovering around in there. I really don't. So, all right, guys.
Answer the question.
What's the question? Oh, Bobby says, how do I become a member? I didn't see that on there. you go to dkps.net/join. And when I say that, I'm talking about just go up to your URL stream, whatever that happens to be, including on your phone on a browser, and just type dkps.net/join. And you'll be taken to a screen that'll allow you to do that. For anybody who doesn't know, you come in, it's 99 cents a month. It costs almost nothing. You get perks now, but you're going to be getting a lot more perks whenever we start moving some of this stuff to members only, some of our videos. So you'll want to get in on the ground floor, just 99 cents a month. So, all right, we will see you guys. What is today? Thursday? We have another one tomorrow. We'll see everybody tomorrow on Friday. Bye-bye.